Alright guys, it's Telarius here. Thank you for the random viewer who commented saying my prior video was shit. Helped out a lot. I should already have a legend on the screen for you by now, so you can skip over all my shit talk. That hypercritical analysis, aka your video is garbage, really helped out a lot. Thankfully, the audio was all distorted for some reason. I'm going to jump right into the guide now. I'm remaking this for you guys. So, I'm going to go over your regular talents first. You have the choice between Blind Fury, Demonic Appetite, and Fellblade. Hopefully the audio sounds better, by the way. So with essentially why you're taking Blind Fury for the most of the time in conjunction with Demonic is because they synergize extremely well. Of course, it can be kicked, which shuts you down a little bit, but typically you'll be out of range of being kicked. With Demonic, these two abilities combo really strong. Essentially, every single time you I-beam, you're going to be capped on Fury, so you can just start spamming damage instead of having to gain Fury by using generators. For the next talent, Demonic Appetite, this is something I would use against double casters, or in duels 3s and 4, of course, because it's inconsistent Fury. However, you can make up for that by getting a 15k heal for every single soul fragment you summon. You gotta be careful, you gotta make sure you walk through these soul fragments as well. It's really important. It allows you to just heal through raw damage sometimes of the enemy team. You also want to combo this with Unending Hatred, because this will make up for the lack of Fury you're getting from Demonic Appetite, gives you some consistency. Fellblade is a very useful talent. I would use this almost all the time in a mobility matchup, say I'm trying to chase a Arcane Mage or something similar, or I'm struggling in general with staying on a target. You'd be using Fellblade. Fellblade, of course, combos well with Demon Blade, because Demon Blade is inconsistent because you have to be hitting a target, but this allows you to hit the target and have much more uptime for the entire battle. The 100 talent tier, so Insatiable Hunger, essentially the old legendary 200 ring, it's not all that great anymore, right? You have to be on the target to be getting that extra Fury, which just isn't consistent. Demon Blades, as I was saying, it's good, but you have to be on the target, so I would only ever use Demon Blades if I'm using Fellblade and maybe Demonic or Momentum. Demonic because it gives you more haste, you're consistently in demon form, so that haste is providing you more positive Demon Blades. Immolation is the best talent in this tier by far. The reason for it is because, let's say I'm rooted over here and that's my target I'm trying to get to. Well, guess what? I can just pop this and I can still gain Fury, so by the time I get over to him, I have enough Fury to actually do damage instead of use my globals that I'm on for Demon Spike. So you have a far better uptime and overall pressure. For the next tier, so essentially one of these is the opposite of the other, and that's Trail of Ruin versus Fell Barrage. Fell Masters isn't that great. You don't want to be using your Fell Rushes for damage, you want to be using them for Gap Closer. Trail of Ruin just adds a really consistent dot. The more AoE you get off with it, the better it is. So it's good in all situations, essentially, versus Spell Barrage, which is extremely easily counterable. You know, it's a 3-second cast, so you're going to be getting kicked most of the time when you're using it, right? And the biggest thing is it actually splits damage. So, as you can see, there were Spell Barrages flying over there and there and there, which means the only way to use it effectively is to get a target isolated when you do pop it. I recommend using it with Demonic or Momentum. It's the polar opposite of Trail of Ruin. It does worse in AoE and better in single target. For a crazy burst build, maybe in 2s or duels, you can use this. But typically you want to use it when the target is stunned. It works better with Demonic than Momentum. It actually gets a 21% damage increase while you're in Metamorphosis. The reason being, of course, is because the haste value actually increases the number of barrages that shoot out of barrage itself. Now, you could go crazy with this and go Momentum, and then while your big Metamorphosis is up, right, so you're getting that 21% from Metamorphosis, plus the 15% from Momentum, all jam-packed into Fell Barrage. You can just do some crazy, huge big dig bursts, alright? So for the next tier, all of 3 of these are actually viable in their own situations, and I'll explain each one. So Soul Rending is something you'd want to use maybe in 2s if you want to stay ahead, and so your healer doesn't have so much mana. In duels, definitely you want to be using this. And of course the reason for it is it just allows your healer to stay up on mana, and you can stay really aggressive if you combine these 3 talents together, Demonic Appetite, Rending, and Demonic. Because you're self-healing so much, you can stay really aggressive and just heal through some offensive cooldowns sometimes. Desperate Instincts. This is a talent you'll want to be using typically against rogue teams, every rogue team or a warrior team, anything that can just stun you and kill you. You know, warrior, in that instance, it's Bolt Execute. This stops that. With Rogue, it's Stun Smoke Bomb. It stops that. It uses every single time in a matchup against Rogue Mage. Main reason being is your healer can play around it. So if they have a defensive like Iron Bark and or Iron Skin, and they're like, hey, do you need skin? No, I have Desperate Instinct. So you can communicate that, and you can rotate your cooldowns effectively by doing it, and don't overlap. The next talent is Netherwalk. Now Netherwalk is a great ability. Okay, so what it's going to allow you to do is if big casts are flying through in your general direction, you can just Netherwalk the cast. It's very good against casters, of course. So is the healing build. But this allows you to save yourself if you're in the open, you have no fell rushes, and you need to get behind a pillar, or your healer is CC'd. And also use this against Cupid, so the comp Cupid, so Rat Paladin, Hunter, healer. And the reason why you do this is, let's say your healer gets in a trap. Well, your healer's in a trap, right? So as soon as you see that he's CC'd, there's going to be a big chain. There's going to be trap, hodge, fear, most likely. So you pop Netherwalk at the start of that trap. You pop it. So now you're staying healthy. You walk over to your healer. They can't stop you typically because they're going to be using all their CC on your healer. And you can just walk over and reverse the next CC on them, right? Use that movement speed to your advantage. And those little tips that most people don't know about is you can actually Netherwalk and bandage at the same time, and nothing can stop you except for a magical CC. No damage will break the channeling effect. For the next tier, unfortunately, First Blood is the only real damage, like the biggest damage increase of this tier. You can't get away with Death Slash or Cycle of Hatred. Cycle of Hatred relies on RNG of your Chaos Strike, which is a 40%, which before it was skill up crit. But now it's simply RNG. You may get a lot of benefit from it, or you may not, and you only get this if your Metamorphosis is actually on cooldown already. So you're not getting the most out of it that you actually can. So I was just checking, see if I was recording with this. First Blood is just a straight up damage increase to your Blade Dance, and the reason why you want to be using this, of course, is because it's going to allow you to play aggressive and defensive. So you can be using your Blade Dance really easy because the Fury cost is reduced by so much to parry a charge on you, or just like jump around, like ventral retreat, and then the Blade Dance. So by the time they get to you, you know, as soon as they do touch you, you can Blade Dance, get that 1 extra second pushed out there. Dark Slash is probably my favorite ability in this tier. It offers high chunks of burst, and how you want to be using it is getting your maximum Fury, right? So I'm holding my mic up right now, so typically I wouldn't be clicking, boys. You want to get max Fury, pop your mini meta, Dark Slash, and then spam Annihilate. So spam Annihilate. Do as many Annihilates as you possibly can. That's how you're going to get the most out of this talent. You want to time it up, essentially. It's a really similar cooldown to I-Beam itself, so you want to time it up with your I-Beam every time and get that extra 40% damage increase on your Annihilates. Very powerful, but it takes a lot more skill and internal use, like thought process to use, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you're experienced. I'd really like to see this buffed, or maybe this nerfed, so they're more comparable, because this takes more skill to use, and this is branded. The 108 tier, all three of these are viable in their own situations. Spell Eruption. It's something you're going to be taking most of the time. Of course, it offers you individual CC. You can just CC a healer, or you can use it as healing for your fellow DPS, or to just save someone in general. So it has great utility. You can also just solo CC, so stun, imprison right away. You do a lot of the CC by yourself. You can hard carry with this talent. The next talent is Master of Glaive, and you won't be using Master of Glaive if you're playing with a Destro Lock or some sort of similar caster a lot of the time. The reason why is because if their Destro Lock is just casting bolts, and you have them permaslowed, well guess what? They can't run away from those bolts and just run behind a pillar. Right? It really forces them, if they run out of cooldowns, to freak out in the moment and just start taking damage of the ass. Unleash Power is something I would use against classes with a lot of pets. The reason being, of course, because 30% chance to summon a Lesser Soul Fragment. Each Soul Fragment heals you for 15k. If you use it on a Holy Decay army, I guarantee you'll get a 70k minimum, upwards of 150k, your full health bar, just from this one talent. Of course, it's also really strong. It gives you consistent AoE stun. You can use it on every single Death Knight army, right? So you're not only healing yourself, you're also healing at the same time, all of the pets. That's the only time I really use this, or against a Demo Warlock, right? So Holy Death Knight or Demo Warlock. Demonic, of course, is the most consistent damage in this tier. It provides offensive pressure, sustainability, lower global cooldown on your, because of all the haste increase, right? I'll show you that real quick. Alright, so you get that big haste increase, and your global cooldown lowers to less than a second. It's nuts. Momentum is essentially Immolation Aura and a damage increase in one. And what I mean by that, of course, is it has the exact same effect with Immolation Aura, so you can combo this if you want some consistent Fury. It also lowers the GCD of your vengeful retreat, and GCD and your vengeful retreat's off the global cooldown now. So as you can see, none of my other abilities spun except for Telarius because it's a fellow mobility cooldown. This is something I would combo with Fell Barrage, or if I'm playing Demon Blades, Fell Blade. The reason being is because if you're playing Demon Blades, you're not going to have as much consistent damage, but you make up for that by using Fell Blade to stand your target more consistently. And this acts as a immolation aura that you're missing. So it's a perfect build that complements itself. And this is actually a very high damage build, with Trail Root, of course. Nemesis, unfortunately, isn't that great of a talent. Reason being is it's 20% for 30 seconds in PvP, not a minute. On top of that, it gives a big red target to your enemy. See, it's big red debuff. So your enemy immediately knows who you're going to be targeting, who you're going to be trying to kill. It's kind of pointless. You don't really want to be using it that often. Maybe if you're very, very, very new to Demon Hunter, I'd recommend it. But Demonic, again, this takes a bit more skill to use, very slightly, whereas Demonic takes 0, just a passive. There's really no benefit to taking Nemesis over either of these two. Momentum gives you 6% 6 seconds for 15% damage increase. This is 20% for 30. So only after 5 momentums, essentially, are you gaining the same duration as Nemesis, plus you're getting this consistently up for the entire time that this would be on cooldown. So for your PvP talents, as a Demon Hunter, you will always be taking Gladiator's Medallion. You are a kill target this expansion. It's pretty easy to kill you if you just get caught in a stun. If you rotate your cooldowns properly, you can definitely use it. The only time I use something else, the only time I would use Relentless or Adaption is if I know the enemy team, I've faced them before and I know they aren't going to try to kill me, right? I face them a bazillion times, they aren't going to try to kill me at all. I'm just going to go down each one of these and how to use these different talents for different reasons. Solitude, you're going to be using if you're playing with a caster, like a Boomkin. It's very powerful with a Boomkin. Of course, because it offers you great Fury increase from all of your Fury generating abilities. I'm going to be using it with a caster, so that if your caster is pew-pew from over there, you can consistently get the buff up. Don't use it with melee because you'll never have it unless you're splitting. A good example of splitting would be if you're playing like a Mistweaver Monk and your warrior or your other DPS hits one of their DPS and then you just sit on their monk. Reverse magic is something I take all the time essentially, especially against any ret team, any mage team. It's very important. You can even use it in more utility-based ways, being, hey, let's stay ahead against this Shadow Priest team. Everybody come together and you reverse all of the dots on your entire team. Your healer stays ahead in mana because of this, and their DPS falls behind because of this. You can also use it, of course, if you're dueling and you're fighting like a Frost Mage. I would take this against a Frost Mage in a duel, so you can reverse the Novas and stay consistently on your target. Viothorus, again, is typically only used for duels. I may use this in twos if I have no other option, so it's just a slight DPS increase. And you'd be using Eye of Viothorus, of course. You'd be using it essentially out of a stun, so you stun them, you do your damage, and then you eye, so when they come out, they're low HP, they have to either spam heal or dispel it, so if they dispel it, they'll fall behind a global, get even lower HP, might get freaky, I don't know, they might get scared. A good way to use it against a Demon Hunter in a 1v1 is as soon as they rain from above, right, the instant they rain from above, you toss eye on them, and they're going to be doing essentially the same damage that they're doing to you, back to themselves. You can stay ahead in that regard, then you can rain from above and pew-pew them down, so you just destroy them. The next talent, Mana Rich. This is also a talent I take almost all the time to threes. You want to be using it, and I'll teach you how to use it consistently on a target, regardless of if they have Relentlessness or an Orc. So healers to counter Mana Rich, they will take Relentlessness. The reason being is because it allows them to get out of the stun, your stun, early enough for them to just walk out of the AoE effect of this. And how you deal with that, okay, is if they have Relentlessness or if they're an Orc, doesn't matter which one it is, you're going to get your Fury, then you're going to pop your Rift, you'll stun, then you'll Rift, and at the last second you're going to Vengeful Retreat. That's 70% slow, will keep them in the circle regardless of what race or talents they're using. That's one super consistent way. Other than that, you're just going to be stun mana rifting them on cooldown. Very easy to use, and it eats away at their mana. The next talent, this was unfortunately nerfed, so essentially it gives you no benefit because it does the exact same damage over a 4-minute duration as Metamorphosis does. So over 4 minutes, to either have 2 shorter bursts, I'd use this maybe in Demon Hunter Warrior, maybe because it gives you that consistent every 2 minutes. You can just go and go crazy, but you're already getting an 8-second demon form every 30 seconds, so you don't really need this at all, right? So you're getting this every 30 seconds, you're getting demonic every 30 seconds. You don't need the shorter cooldown of demonic origin, so it gives you no real benefit. Retainment is also talent I would use often. It has a lot of utility. You're going to be using it against any team that you need to hard CC, so essentially every minute you can full Bell Erupt and then full Detainment someone. That's 10 seconds of CC by yourself. You can get a lot of pressure off during that time. You can also use it in different ways too, such as aggressive or defensive. You can use it to heal. Or let's say a mage is at 20% HP. Okay, so he pops Temporal Shield. You can't dispel it. Nobody on your team can dispel it. What's going to happen is, and you know there's a lot of damage to that Temp Shield. At the last second of that Temporal Shield, you can Detainment, completely nullifies the effect of a heal, so you're getting ahead on that regard. He essentially doesn't even have Temporal Shield, doesn't exist. His healer can't top him, and the 6-second duration allows your team to possibly set up healers or for DRs to fall off the enemy healer, so you can CC him, and then quickly finish off the mage when he comes out of Detainment. Mana Break, so it isn't that great of a talent, but if you did want to use it, how you'd be using it, of course, is you'd gain your Fury up. It's going to auto attack here, or I'll bench for a tree actually. Get your Fury up, you'd stun them, you do your burst, right, your IB, your burst, whatever, and upon coming out of that stun, you want to Mana Rip when they're low HP. Reason being, of course, is because they can't dispel this, and the only way to get high HP, they have a choice. They cannot heal, okay? And that means they're probably going to die because they'll be low HP and taking a lot of damage for 15 seconds, right? It's 15-second duration, 10-second duration, sorry. Or they can top themselves back up, but in the process, use a bunch more mana. And about 3 full spell casts will result in a fourth's usage of mana, which is about 2%, 3%, depending on the healer you're fighting. So you can use it, but there are better talents now that it's nerfed. Or changed, I should say. Glimpse is something I would use in duels. Very powerful in duels. Essentially allows you to have an extra like 8 seconds or 9 seconds of, 6 seconds per minute of really high tankiness when you're fighting people. Very powerful in duels. In threes, I'd only use this if I really, really, really need to live. Like my team's like, yeah, we're gonna win if we just live past 2 minutes. Like, okay, Desperate Instincts, Glimpse, I'm now immortal. Every vengeful retreat is going to be a 50% damage reduction, 50% evasion, so I'm going to be super tanky even while my blur is off cooldown. Very powerful combination right here. Darkness is something you'll be taking 100% of the time, regardless of the comp you're fighting, even in duels or 2s or 3s. You always want to have Darkness. Darkness is just super powerful cooldown, 80% or 70% chance to completely avoid all damage whatsoever for you or your teammates, just a life save. So now I'm going to go over some Azerite traits. And there's a few in particular that are extremely powerful in this regard. Number 1 is Furious Gaze. So as you can see, I have 1,000 haste. So that's actually inaccurate. I have the haste from my quick navigation. Can I just click it off? For some reason, Blue didn't make it so you can't fucking click this shit off. Isn't it off? Why would you make it like that? I can click that off, but I can't click my own weapon buff off. Whatever. So, as you can see, my haste is at 970. This gives me 800. Typically my haste is around 850. This doubles my haste for free. That's amazing. It lowers your GCD even more while doing Metamorphosis. Gives you more procs of Bell Eruption or I-Beam when you smack it. Just very powerful in general. You want to be using your Mana Rip while you have Demonic up too, because it lowers GCD, so you can get a stun Mana Rip quicker. The next trait I would recommend is Battlefield Precision. Precision. Sorry, I can't fucking English right now. This literally when it procs is just a 20k damage increase, right? So if you're bursting someone, you know all those times when they live with like 5% HP, 20k of their HP is a lot of extra damage. They will probably die in all those situations they would have normally lived. It procs off your healer's damage, your auto attacks. It procs off the dot, as you can see, I'll walk away, and the dot will proc it. As you can tell, it's proccing. The AoE from Immolation Aura will proc it. Everything procs this thing, so you can do a lot of burst damage very quickly. The fourth and final talent trait is not Soulmonger, what's the other one? That one trait that allows you, every single time that you use your consume magic, it shatters a lesser soul fragment from the target. That soul fragment heals you 15k and provides you an 11k shield. Do the math, right? That's a crazy amount of self-sustain that you're getting just from one trait. I use that if I'm playing really defensive or if I really need to live. It's one of the minor traits, so you don't need to typically get rid of your big DPS stat traits to really abuse it. Now finally, your stat priority I recommend using. You want to ignore mastery for the most part. It's not powerful enough really to gain a huge benefit. You want to be using versatility because it is essentially the exact same thing as mastery, and it makes you tankier, and haste. So I'd use a mix of both, but I recommend going towards versatility. Makes you tankier and it increases your own self-healing, right? Your own self-healing is increased by versatility. Very powerful. And last but not least, I'll just give you guys a quick little combo tip for some talents. Bellblade plus momentum is going to be a very consistent way to stay on a target. Most demon hunters are going to know this, is that you can actually use Vengeful Retreat instead of defensively as something aggressive. So normally it would take me 2 Fell Rushes, as you can see, 1, 2, to get to this target. Instead of wasting my Fell Rushes, I can save them for later. And how you want to do that, Vengeful Retreat, is you Vengeful Retreat into your Fellblade, and then, because you're on the target after that big burst of retreat, you can use your Fell Rushes to stay on the target and do way more damage overall. And I'll show you how. So you want to jump, then retreat, turn around, and Fellblade. You can cover the exact same amount of distance essentially as 2 Fell Rushes by using these 2 abilities together. And that's it for my guide. Thank you for the critical analysis earlier of my prior video. I hope the audio isn't distorted on this one. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. I'll have my Discord in the link below. So peace.